Hello everyone. Today we will discuss about thoracic inlet and thoracic outlet. In this diagram, this is the thoracic cage which is formed by the bones, anteriorly sternum, posteriorly thoracic part of the vertebral column, and on both sides is the ribs and costal cartilage. Thoracic cavity or thoracic cage superiorly related to the neck and inferiorly to the abdomen cavity. So here is the aperture or superior opening of the thoracic cage, and this one is the inferior opening of the thoracic cage. Superior opening of the thoracic cage continues with the neck, and inferior to the inferior opening is the abdominal cavity. So superior in this class we will study about the inlet of the inlet and outlet of the thoracic cage, boundaries and contents or structures which pass through these openings. So now this one is the thoracic cavity, which is cone like cavity, which is broad inferiorly and narrow superiorly. A thoracic cavity separated from the abdomen by a diaphragm, which is the musculotendinous partition between the thoracic and abdominal cavity, and superiorly it is separated from the neck by a cervical diaphragm. But cervical diaphragm is not a complete diaphragm. It is formed by the suprapleural membrane, right and left suprapleural membrane, and between these suprapleural membrane there is a gap. Through this gap, vital structures from the neck enters into the thoracic cavity. So thoracic cavity is space of the thoracic cavity is reduced by the upward projection of the diaphragm and inward projection of the shoulder. So space of the thoracic cavity is narrow. Now superior aperture or inlet of the thoracic cavity. Here we can see that this one is the superior opening or superior aperture, and it is also known as the inlet of the thoracic cavity or thoracic cage. It is a hollow space or which is surrounded by the bony ring. So now boundary of the thoracic inlet is the anteriorly by superior border of the manubrium sterni. This one is the manubrium sterni, body of the sternum, and xiphoid process of the sternum. So anteriorly thoracic inlet bounded by the superior border of the manubrium sterni. Posteriorly is the superior surface of the first thoracic vertebra, that is T1 vertebra, and on both sides is the inner border of the first rib. This one is the first rib. So on both sides thoracic inlet bounded by the inner border of the thoracic rib. That one is the first rib. Here we can see that is this is the manubrium sterni anteriorly, and this one is the T1 vertebra, T2 vertebra. So thoracic inlet is the oblique. Plane of the thoracic inlet is the oblique. Anterior boundary of the thoracic inlet, that is a superior border of the manubrium sterni, is the 3.7 centimeter below the posterior boundary. So a plane of the thoracic inlet is the oblique, and it forms the 45-degree angle to the horizontal plane. So slope of the thoracic inlet, the plane of the thoracic inlet is direct downwards and forward with an obliquity of about 45-degree. So thoracic inlet, boundary of the thoracic inlet is the anterior superior border of the manubrium sterni, posterior superior surface of the T1 vertebra, and on both sides is the inner border of the first rib and cartilage. Now partition of the thoracic inlet, or we can say diaphragm of the inlet. Here this diaphragm or this partition is not a complete partition like a thoraco-abdominal diaphragm. It is formed by the suprapleural membrane on both sides, and there is a gap between two suprapleural membrane. Suprapleural membrane, it is also known as the Simpson fascia. Suprapleural membrane or Simpson fascia is nothing but it is the flattened tendon of the scalenus minimus muscles. Scalenus minimus muscle is the muscle of the neck. So suprapleural membrane is the flat tendon of the scalenus minimus muscle of the neck. It is triangular in shape. Suprapleural membrane is triangular in shape. Its apex is attached to the transverse process of the C7 vertebra. Here is the apex, and base is attached to the inner border of the first rib and costal cartilage. So it is triangular in shape, it is attached and transverse process of the C7 vertebra and inner border of the first rib. Here in this diagram we can see this one is the suprapleural membrane. Superiorly suprapleural membrane or Simpson fascia is related to the subclavian artery, subclavian vein, and inferior surface of this membrane is related to the cervical pleura or apex of the lung. This one is the apex of the lung, and apex of the lung is covered by the pleura which is known as the cervical pleura. Apex of the lung extend up to the neck. Here is the same diagram. This one is the suprapleural membrane or Simpson fascia, and here we can say superiorly it is related to the subclavian artery and subclavian vein, and inferiorly it is related to the apex of the lung and cervical pleura. Here also we say that this one the subclavian vein and this one is the subclavian artery. So subclavian artery and subclavian vein is related to the superior surface of the suprapleural membrane, and inferiorly it is related to the apex of the lung, or here is the suprapleural membrane and here is also the suprapleural membrane. In between two is the gap through which the vital structures enter into the neck, enter into the thorax from the neck. Now structures passing through the inlet of the thorax. This one is the diagram at the level of the first or thoracic inlet. Here we can say many structures pass from the neck to the thorax, and these structures are the first of all is the muscles. Here we can say two muscles, sternothyroid and sternohyoid muscle. This one is the sternothyroid and sternohyoid muscle. Sternohyoid muscle from sternum to the hyoid bone, and sternothyroid from sternum to the thyroid cartilage. So two muscles anteriorly and one muscle is the posterior longus colli muscle. These three muscles pass through the thoracic inlet, and now viscera which pass through the thoracic inlet is the remnant of the thymus. Here is the remnant of the thymus gland and trachea, then esophagus and apex of the lungs. So these are the four structures for viscera which pass through the inlet of the thorax. That is first one is the remnant of the thymus gland, trachea, esophagus and apex of the lung. Now great blood vessels. Blood vessels, great blood vessels are the on the right side there is the right brachiocephalic trunk or right brachiocephalic artery, and on the left side is the left common carotid artery and left subclavian artery, and small arteries are the right and left internal thoracic artery. This one is the right and this one is the left internal thoracic artery, and posteriorly is the superior intercostal artery, which is related to the neck of the first rib. So these are small arteries and large arteries which pass through the inlet, and veins are the inferior thyroid vein and right and left brachiocephalic vein, and posteriorly it is related with the first posterior intercostal veins. Now and next nerves which pass through the inlet is the right phrenic nerve and left phrenic nerve, right vagus and left vagus nerve, and on the left side there is another nerve which is known as recurrent laryngeal nerve, and posteriorly sympathetic trunk and first thoracic nerve. These nerves pass through the inlet of the thorax. So here we can see muscles are the sternothyroid, sternohyoid and longus colli muscle. Viscera are the trachea, esophagus or lungs with pleura. And nerves are the right and left phrenic nerve, right and left vagus nerve, right and left sympathetic trunk, right and left first thoracic nerve, and left recurrent laryngeal nerve. These nerves are which pass through the inlet of the thorax. Now cervical. Cervical rib. In 0.5% cases or subjects, there is a extra rib which is attached to the C7 cervical vertebra. This rib is known as the cervical rib, which through a fibrous band it is attached to the superior surface of the first cervical rib. So this extra rib is known as the cervical rib. If this rib is present, there is a traction on the lower trunk of the brachial plexus which arch over the cervical rib. So brachial plexus arch over the first cervical rib. So there will be traction of the brachial plexus. Due to cervical rib, there is a complaints of paresthesia or abnormal sensation along the ulnar border of the forearm, and vascular change. Here you can see that a subclavian artery and subclavian vein pass related to the superior surface of the Simpson fascia. So these structures may be compressed and there will be gangrene may present due to the compression of the subclavian artery, and due to the involvement of the T1 fibers in the brachial plexus, there will be wasting of the intrinsic muscle of the hand. Now inferior aperture or outlet of the thorax. This one is the inferior aperture or outlet of the thoracic cage. Inferior aperture, and it is separate from the abdominal cavity through the abdominothoracic diaphragm. So boundary of the outlet is the anteriorly is the infrasternal angle between the costal margin. This one is the costal margin, and between two costal margin is the infrasternal angle. So outlet anteriorly bounded by the infrasternal angle, or posteriorly is the inferior surface of the body of the 12th thoracic vertebra, inferior surface, and on both sides is the costal margin, which is formed by the 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th cartilage, and 11th and 12th rib. So on both sides is the costal margin and 12th and 11th and 12th rib. Diaphragm of the outlet of the thorax. Outlet of the thorax is separated from the abdominal cavity by the thoraco-abdominal diaphragm. Here we can see this one is the diaphragm which separate the two cavities, thorax and abdominal cavity. So now structures which pass through the outlet or which pass through the diaphragm of the thoracic cage is the large structures or large opening. Here we can see there is the three large opening which pass through the diaphragm. First one is the aortic opening. Aortic opening is like at the T12 level. Here we can see this one is the aortic opening which is lies on the T12 vertebral level, and through this opening transmit the aorta, thoracic duct and sometimes azygous vein. Esophageal opening, this one is the esophageal opening. Esophageal opening is the muscular opening, and through this opening gastric nerves, esophageal branch of the left gastric artery passes through this opening. This opening lies at the T10 level, T10 vertebral level. Now vena cava opening, this one is the vena cava opening. Through this opening inferior vena cava and right phrenic nerve transmit. Here also the same diagram. This is one is the central tendon of the diaphragm. Inferior vena cava, or we can see vena cava opening present in the central tendon of the diaphragm, and it is lies at the level of T10 vertebra. Through this opening inferior vena cava and right phrenic nerve pass, and this one is the esophageal opening which vena cava opening lies at the T8 level, and esophageal opening lies at the T10 level, and aortic opening lies at the T12 vertebral level. Through esophageal opening, esophageal branch of the left gastric artery and veins and right and left vagus nerve pass, and through the aortic opening three major structures pass: aorta, right thoracic duct and azygous vein, and some small structure also pass through the diaphragm. Here first one is the superior epigastric vessels, and through the behind the medial arcuate ligament sympathetic trunk is passed, and below the lateral arcuate ligament subcostal vessels and nerve pass. And this one is the right and left crest of the diaphragm, greater splanchnic nerve and lesser splanchnic nerve. This one is the greater and this one is the lesser splanchnic nerve, which also pass through the right crest of the diaphragm. So these small and large structures which cross the diaphragm or which pass through the diaphragm are the structures which pass through the outlet of the thoracic cavity. So these are the small opening. Now thoracic outlet syndrome. Here we can see that this one is the scalenus medius muscle and this one is the scalenus anterior muscle. Both muscles are inserted on the superior surface of the first rib, and brachial plexus pass or emerge through the between two muscles. Brachial plexus, this one is the brachial plexus, or which pass through the scalenus medius and scalenus anterior muscle, and this one is the subclavian artery and subclavian vein. Subclavian artery, both structures are related to the superior surface of the first rib and below the clavicle bone. So these structures may compress here between the first rib and clavicle bone. So if these structures are compressed here, there will be many signs and symptoms which is known as the thoracic outlet syndrome. So thoracic outlet syndrome is a group of disorders that occur when blood vessels or nerves in the space between collarbone, that is clavicle, and first rib are compressed. This can cause pain on shoulder and neck and numbness in the fingers. So here we can see this one is the scalenus anterior, scalenus medius muscle, between two is the brachial plexus. So here brachial plexus and subclavian artery, if there is a cervical rib present, or if there is a cervical rib present, there will be compression of these structures. Sign and symptoms, if now are compressed, there will be muscle wasting in mainly intrinsic muscle of the hand because of the involvement of the T1 fibers, and numbness in the arm, ulnar border of the forearm and fingers. Pain in the neck, shoulder and hand, and vascular changes are the main changes of the vascular is the weak or no pulse in the affected arm. If subclavian artery compressed, there will be loss of radial pulse or weakness of the radial pulse, discoloration of the hand, arm, pain and swelling possibly due to blood clots. So this one is the thoracic outlet